you know, if you wanted to go on to college or anything, or to
Wow.
get a certificate.
Yeah. And school, you could go to school anywhere in Ireland. You didn't just have to go in your own townland, right?
You could anywhere because it was the same test.
Same
It was
tests.
you know, like they had the same tests all over Ireland. The test was universal. They were given by the government.
Yeah.
You know,
Were they given on the same days? I mean, was that the day that everybody got tests?
I think they were given basically on the same day. Yeah, I think they were. Yeah,
So nobody could go over to
that's right.
Kerry and tell
They would
somebody
be.
in Kerry
Yes, they
what it
would
was.
be given on the same day.
Yeah.
Well, as long as the surrounding areas had them, because at that time you had very few phones or anything else where you didn't have faxes or anything where you could pass on the tests, you know,
Pass on the
yeah,
information.
or
Yeah.
computers,
Yeah. Yeah. You said you were interested in football.
yeah.
Did you play yourself?
I did play a little, yeah, not that much, but I wasn't that good at it. But I used to go see the games and stuff like this.
Did you play in your area? Or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the area. Didn't have. There wasn't actually much interest in football or hurling in my area when I was growing up. Very little. I would say you'd be lucky if you've got one football in the whole parish.
Wow.
And then we got a guard, policeman he was a native of Mayo. Is Ned Cleary. He's still there. He's not. He's retired now, but he's still there. And him and the school teacher was a local, Malachy Sullivan. They started teaching the kids how to play football. And Ned Cleary had a few sons of his own who were very good. One of them played with the Cork County team, John Cleary. And they became fantastic. Lo and behold, they did something one year that nobody had ever thought that they do. They won the Cork County Championship. And they went to the final of the All-Ireland Club Championship. And everybody was, that's a fluke. Well, 3 years later, they did the same thing again. Yeah. So, you know, and they really have great football. They have their own football field and their own clubhouse, training facilities and everything else there now. It's great. Even for the young kids, they really have a big program there.
Well,
Great.
Cork has always been a big sports area, but not that part of Cork, I guess.
Yeah, I know,
Where
yeah.
was it more more up near Cork City or Cove?
Well, Skibbereen always had a good football team. Yeah, they always. O'Donovan and Russell team, they always were good. And Dunmanway had good ones. Clonakilty, you know. But we were just a little bit of a parish. But it was these two guys that brought the whole thing together with the kids.
Yeah.
You know, like anybody that we ever had teaching there or before that had no interest in football, you know, or stuff like this, and we never got the chance.
Yeah.
But then when this guy Ned Cleary and Malachy Sullivan got into it, and they showed everybody that it could be done. You know, it was the way it goes, and it just goes to show what one or two people can do.
Yeah.
You know.
How about music? Were you ever involved in music?
No, I was never involved in music.
Never
No.
played
No.
music or anything?
No, I was never involved in music, and there's nobody in my family involved in music except I got one nephew. He works for American Airlines down in Dallas, Texas. He plays the banjo.
That's interesting.
And my brother in England, he's my brother's son. And my brother in England says, "Where the heck did he get that from?" You know?
What was your party piece then? Did you have a party piece when you were growing up?
How do you mean?
Something that you did when the groups all got together and everybody did a little performance of something? Did you have something you did?
Maybe sing a song or something like that.
Well, there, see,
Yeah, yeah.
you did. See, you did. You sang a song.
But everybody can sing, you know, like, you know.
Uh-huh.
You know, like you know, a bit of a sing song at the, you know, like when they used to have these parties during the threshings and during
Yes.
the you know, the start, and everybody went around the
Right.
house. Everybody had to, you know, no matter how bad you were, everybody had to do something.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
So you learned something. What was your song that you sang? Do you remember?
Well, I guess I'm kind of, I guess Dear Old Skibbereen is one of the ones, but there was one song that I used to like to sing. It was a Kerry song, The Valley of Knockanower. Very good song.
Yeah. Can you sing it now?
I guess I could, but I need a few drinks downstairs to start singing that.
So you don't want to dig it back out right now, huh?
Yeah, and then everybody can sing after a few drinks anyway. So
How about drama? Were you involved in drama?
no, I was not. I had a few. Well, I went a few times for plays. There's the plays in the CYMS hall, like twice a year, and they used to have some very good plays. Something like what they do here, you know. And I tried out a few times for it, and then something else happened, and I didn't, you know, I didn't go along with it, go for it, you know, like. You know, but There was, there was some very good. They used to put on some very good productions.
You get great support from the community over
Yeah,
there too, don't you? Yeah, that always surprised me.
Mhm.
How about favorite foods? What were your favorite foods when you were a kid?
I guess bacon and cabbage. It's still my favorite food.
I loved it too.
It's still my favorite food.
How about castor oil? Any castor oil?
Oh yeah, twice a week, castor oil, and once a week milk and magnesia.
Oh, jeez.
Like the commercial said, it kept us regular.
Yeah. Oh, so many people talk about the castor oil.
Yeah.
Did you get a spoonful of sugar?
Cod liver oil mostly.
Cod liver oil.
Cod liver oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, cod liver oil. Twice a week. I get all the vitamins that they take today. You got all those vitamins in one teaspoonful of cod liver oil.
How did you get it down?
Well, I didn't mind. I didn't mind it at all.
You didn't.
I would take a tablespoonful of swallow it right down.
Yeah.
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 Maybe have a drink of water or something like that afterwards, but
Yeah.
you could feel it in your mouth for a while afterwards. It coated your mouth. But the milk and magnesia was much worse.
Yeah.
God, that stuff was terrible. Oh, I hated that stuff.
Well, you brought a picture with you that
Mhm.
that Kevin has put onto the film. Would you just tell us a little bit about what the picture is, so that we
Well,
have that on record?
it's a picture of the parish, the southern half of the parish,
Okay.
And this here is the village, Castle Townsend. Okay, this is the harbour coming in. This is the road here, right along here. You can't see it, but there's a row of houses here, right along here. This is the road from Skibbereen, and this is the coast road going right out along. You can see it here in bits, going all the way out. And right there is where I was born and reared.
Wow.
Right there.
Yep.
All the way out along. This is called Toe Head out here. This is where my mother was born. This white house right here.
Wow.
Okay.
And where was your father born?
He was born right here, where this house right here, where I was born.
Okay, same house. Okay. Yep.
This here was my uncle's farm. My grandfather was in this country, was in America, back in the 1800s. And he made some money and he went back to Ireland, he bought this farm and he built the house and got married and raised a family.
Wow.
Yeah. And then you'll see right here is a little piece, that's the end of an island called Horse Island. And my uncle also owned that, And he used to have cattle out there. He swim the cattle back and forth after the boat,
Right.
to
Yeah.
get to some of the neighbours. And this place here is called Traharter. And there's a story about it. In 1823, the tenant farmers used to have to pay the Protestant minister what they call tithes, 10% of their profit, right? Now, the Protestant minister never really collected them, but in 1823 there was a new minister came to Castle Townsend and insisted that they pay him, and they refused, right? So he sent the police out to force them to pay it, and there was a battle fought right here in Traharter, right here, right somewhere along here where my uncle had the farm, and there was 3 people died in the battle that they had. One policeman, his head was cut off by a farmer with a scythe, and 2 farmers were shot dead. And apparently one of the farmers skipped away, and he came to the Somervilles. This is where the Somervilles were, Drishan House. And the Thomas Sullivan, the Somerville, the guy that had all the ships and everything else, the trading ships, he came to him and asked him could he come out and help him. And he rode his horse out there, and he rode up and down between the 2 lines, and he spoke in Gaelic to the farmers, and he spoke in English to the policemen, because they were English, right? And to stop. And they did stop for him. And well, the farmers, all they had was stones apparently, and the policemen had guns, right? And they did stop, and he said, okay, he said, we'll straighten this thing out, he said, in the courthouse in Skibbereen next month. And they did. And about 4 years later, I think it was 1987, they changed the law, where instead of the tenant farmer paying the tithes to the Protestant church, the landlord had to pay the tithes to the Protestant church. So that was This here is it's not a lighthouse, but it was an old Coast Guard station for ships in distress and stuff like that, right? Okay, all right. A little bit on past this 5 miles is the Mizzen Head Lighthouse, which is the closest point to America. Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Can we talk a little bit about the Troubles?
Yeah.
just it's in the news right now,
I know.
and there's some hope for maybe things coming along. Now I know you spent a little time up in north, knew people up in the north. So
I did.
Yeah, so you probably have some kind of opinion about what's going on and how things,
Well,
troubles affected life.
well, I was rather involved in things for a long time until 1989. For like 27 years, there was a bunch of us with Irish Northern Aid. We gave every Saturday and every Sunday and almost every waking up minute, collecting money, running dances, running concerts, running raffles, anything we could to raise money, selling T-shirts, sweatshirts, buttons, bumper stickers, everything, right? And we raised a lot of money. And all the money went to the families of the political prisoners. It went to an organisation in Dublin called Common Cora, which is the Health Committee. And we were always told at that time that there would be no cessation to any of the troubles that went on in Ireland until three things happened. Like, I heard it from Jerry Adams myself. I had meetings with Jerry Adams, and I heard it from himself. One of the things was the withdrawal of all British troops to the barrack. Number two, the release of all political prisoners. And number three, a statement of intent from England to leave Ireland. Right? And things were going pretty good. I think the IRA had the upper hand for a while, you know. And then they bombed that big financial building in London, which caused like £1 billion damage. I think they eventually took the whole building down, that they couldn't repair it. And then they had those dummy rockets. They never loaded anything to them. I'm sure they could have, but they fired some of them into the grounds of Heathrow Airport. And it scared the living hell out of the Brits, you know. And the Brits says, hey, you know, why don't we sit down and talk, you know. And if you ever heard the speech, the talk that the President of Ireland, Sean T. O'Kelly, gave on the 50th anniversary of the 1916 uprising, you know, he said how that, one of the things he said was how that Britain were in difficulty in Europe with the First World War, and he said we looked at that, he said, as an opportunity to take a slap at them, you know. And if the Brits were hurting that much, I think it was time to take another slap at them. But they said, no, we sat down and stuff like this, and they have a treaty and everything else. And I think the whole thing has gone. All the people that died, all the hunger strikers that died and stuff like this, unfortunately, I think they died for nothing. All the guys that went to jail and everything else. Like they're talking now about blowing up all the ammunition and everything else. There's a very good friend of mine. He's from Tyrone. And he gave 4 years in jail in Germany on trial. Then when they found out that they weren't going to convict him, they shipped him back here to this country, and they put him on trial in this country for gun running. And they gave him 3 years in a jail down in New Jersey. You know, this guy Jerry, how does he feel now that he gave all that time in jail procuring all this stuff, and now all of a sudden they're going to say, we're going to destroy it all, you know? So I think I don't think in our time we'll never see United Ireland. No. I was great friends with the old IRA man, Michael Flannery. And Michael Flannery always said, as long as the army is in charge, we will win. But when the politicians take over, we lose. And that's what's happened.
And that's what's happened now. It's definitely going to be that.
Yeah, and they had a great thing going in this country. The money was flowing in and everything else. They had so much money, and you know, like I traveled this country all over from one end to the other with Irish Northern Aid. I was the national chairman for 8 years of Irish Northern Aid.
Wow.
And California, San Francisco, Los Angeles, everywhere, right? And down to Florida and Boston, up to Michigan, every place. And everybody, there was some great people out there who were willing to do anything. And they've lost all that.
Yeah. And NorAid was specifically for helping the families.
Helping the families, helping the family, yeah.
Okay.
Strictly.
Yeah.
Because the federal government had an eye on us.
Oh, yeah.
And every month we used to have to send in a statement into the federal government down in Washington. There was a guy down in Washington working, I forget what building he was in now, his name was Ahern. Probably of Cork extraction with a name like Ahern. But that was his job for about 12 years, just tracking what Northern Aid did And we had a newspaper, the Irish People newspaper. We had to send so many copies to him every week so that he could see what was in there and stuff like this. The ads, how it was being financed, the ads that were in there, and what they're being paid for and everything else. And we fought it in court for a long time, but then somebody said, the lawyer says, what the heck, just send them a bunch of stuff. Yeah. They're not going to do anything with it anyway. So, you know, some politician or some guy down there, that's some bureaucrat, has got a job. Give him something to put in his files. Yeah. So that's what we did.
Yeah. So you don't have a whole lot of hope that this what's happened the night? No,
I don't. Yeah. I don't. Unfortunately, you know, like it breaks my heart, and I know a lot of other people feel the same way, and even people around here, you know, that I speak to, you know.
Yeah. No, it's a big one.
Yeah.
It's a big one. You have any interesting characters from your childhood that you have a story about?
Yeah, when the Somervilles again.
Okay.
Is I don't know if you ever heard of her or not, Dr. Edith D. Somerville. She was an author. Do you ever, back in the 80s, NBC had a program on, the Irish RM. Did you ever see it?
Yes, I did see
She
that.
was the one that wrote that, back in the 1800s. Herself and her friend, they were co-authors. Their mothers were actually first cousins. Marion Ross, right? Marion Ross's real name was Marion Martin, but she was born in a place in Galway called Ross House, alongside of Ross Lake. And she took the pen name of Marion Ross. And her and Edith D. Somerville wrote all these letters, these books and everything else. She wrote several books. And wonderful woman. I remember her. She died in 1949. I remember her riding out the road in her little pony and trap every evening. And she used to take us kids for a ride and stuff like that. She was a little old small lady at the time. And Marion Ross died in 1915. I don't know what she died of, but she died in 1915. But everything that Edith Somerville wrote after that, she always put down Edith Somerville and Marion Ross on it. Yeah. And she was a great painter as well. She made some great paintings. And they were the ones that owned the farm that my father worked on, right? Then she got old and she died, and her sister died. Her sister's name was Hildegrade. She was Lady Coggle. And they were one of the first people that ever introduced Frisian cows into Ireland.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And they won shows, won medals in all kinds of shows, even in the Royal Dublin Society Horse Show and places like that. They had horses, and they also had a hunt club, their own hunt club. And they were great people. Who, you know, like they were very, very fair to the local people. In fact, the doctor